On October 22, 2023, two Philippine Coast Guard vessels and two supply ships intruded into the waters near China's Renaijiao, attempting to deliver supplies to an illegally grounded warship. On September 16th this year, multiple official Philippine vessels intruded into the territorial waters of China's Huangyandao, deliberately ramming a Chinese Coast Guard vessel. Such incidents have become increasingly frequent in recent years. Regarding the South China Sea issue between China and the Philippines has three so-called claims. This video will refute them respectively, using Huangyandao as an example. The Philippines claims jurisdiction over Huangyandao based on its proximity. However, the island of Palmas case ruling clearly stated that proximity as a basis of territorial sovereignty has no foundation in international law. Many countries have territories far from their mainland, such as the French islands of Guadeloupe and Martinique in the Caribbean. The Philippines claims that Huangyandao falls within its exclusive economic zone as defined by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. However, this only applies when the sovereignty over a maritime feature is undecided. In other words, if the sovereignty is established by a specific country, other countries cannot claim rights. The Philippines asserts that it has effectively occupied Huangyandao since independence. However, the island of Palmas case ruling requires the line to be no man's land for occupation claims. The subsequent Clapperton Island arbitration case supports symbolic occupation by the discovering country, can be considered a form of effective administration for remote allies. China had established control over Huangyandao centuries before the Philippines' symbolic independence in 1898. As evidenced by the merriment of the Four Seas, led by Guo Shoujing in 1279, marked Huangyandao as its southernmost point, among many others. Before 1997, the Philippines never raised any objections to China's sovereignty over Huangyandao. Philippine officials had repeatedly stated that Huangyandao was outside Philippine territory. However, in 1997, the Philippines suddenly reversed its previous position and began to claim sovereignty over it, clearly violating the international law principle of Istanbul. What then has promoted the Philippines to repeatedly provoke China? On one hand, the discovery of rich oil and gas resources in the South China Sea region in the late 1960s. On the other hand, it's heavily related to the instigation and support of some external powers. In November 2011, and the US pivoted Asia strategically out, the South China Sea issue quickly became an important tool for the United States to contain China. On January 22, 2013, the then Philippine government unilaterally initiated an arbitration concerning the South China Sea issue. Facts clearly show that the South China Sea arbitration was entirely a scheme, instigated and manipulated by the United States, spearheaded by the Philippines, targeting China. As this video is being made, Philippine vessels continue to lurk around China's Huangyandao and other parts of the Nansha Qingdao.